On March 22nd, 1996, Capcom released Resident Evil, also known as Biohazard in Japan, for the original PlayStation 1. The game begins its development in 1993, the lead developer Shinji Mikami within Capcom Production Studio 4. The game was originally another game named Home Sweet Home that was developed into now what we know as
Resident Evil.
Story of the game. The story of the original Resident Evil in 1996 was much more simple and less convoluted than the series later became. Within the outskirts of the fictional universe Raccoon City, there has been a bizarre series of murders of cannibalism victims from an unknown case. The Raccoon City Police Department sent their Special Tactics of Rescue Service, also known as STARS, to investigate the murders along with the recently missing STARS members, also known as Bravo Team. Alpha Team is sent in to investigate, only to be split up from the monsters in the Raccoon Forest that's also known as BAL or bioorganic weapons. Depending on who you choose at the start of the game, you will either play as Alpha Team members Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine. Without spoiling the entire story, you will need to investigate the mansion to not only escape it, but to solve the mystery of the missing Bravo Team, but to also find the origin of the cannibalism victims and the cause of the BOWs. Memories of the game. As generic as it sounds, I will always remember the first zombie that you encounter, only to struggle to get away from it because of the tank controls that you're still getting used to at this point. The first L-shaped corridor that you walk through that starts off silent, only for a dog to jump through for the jump scare. Even the cheesy yet crappy acting at the beginning of the game using the full motion video for the intro cutscene, which I love by the way. Fun fact, in the director's cut of the game, they wanted to place the uncensored colour opening cutscene into the game, but apparently the developers screwed up and forgot to put it in the final game. Whoops. I even remember during the game the sudden realisation that shit, you ran out of bullets in one scenario of a hallway with the infected that fill it, and you need a shotgun rather than a pistol to get through it. I remember from a young age I got a first taste of the series from the critically acclaimed Resident Evil 4. It was one of the first games that I bought off the shelf with no pre-research or knowledge of the history of the series. My first experience with the original Resident Evil was the summer of 2007 when I stumbled across the re-released DS port, also known as Resident Evil Deadly Silence. This game almost had the best of me when it took me 3 attempts to beat the game, due to either running out of ammunition in the scenario when I desperately needed it, along with literally running out of health before a safe room, or where a hunter was waiting for me around the corner to kill me with a one-hit kill. Controls of the game. The controls by today's standards can be considered to be very outdated. This is due to the controls being designed around tank controls. To explain this simply, you can move around like a tank. So you press the D-pad for the character to rotate in a required direction, then press forward on the D-pad to move forward in the selected direction like a tank. To shoot, you need to select R1 to aim and R2 to fire the weapon of choice, along with using the D-pads to change the position. In hindsight, this rough and outdated controls add to the tension of the game, having limited controls of basic movement that can increase the difficulty of survival. There are 2 scenarios in the game where you play as Chris Redfield, which is known as hard mode, and Jill Valentine's scenario that is also known as easy mode. There are some interesting pros and cons in the game design for each scenario. For example, for Jill's scenario, it includes pros such as having an easy mode, an extra item slot, along with the beloved company of Barry Burton.
Wesker! Help me look for him, Jill.
However, the cons of Jill's scenario would be that you would take more damage when hit by enemies in the game. Whereas in Chris's scenario, the pros would include him having more health so he can take more hits, while having medic Rebecca Chambers as a companion character. However, the cons of his scenario are that this would be hard modes, along with him having less item slots, increasing the difficulty of the game. As well as different game mechanics, this gives you a shift in perspective of the progression of the game that gives you a different and unique method of storytelling. Design of the game. Another difference that would set this game apart from many other survival horror games at the time is the amount of limited saves that you have in the game. The game has this obscure yet unique way of saving your process by collecting ink ribbons, and then saving your process in the in-game typewriters that are hidden around the mansion setting, usually in the safe rooms. However, the catch is that depending on the difficulty selected, there are around 30 ink ribbons scattered around the mansion, while it also takes up one item slot, which you may need for either key items, health, guns or ammo. This creates dynamic tension and stress when it comes to item management, following the correct scenario that we'll often run into. Another design that doesn't make any logical sense is the item boxes that are usually found in the safe rooms. When you run out of item slots, which will happen by the way, you can load your items into the box and return back to it another time when you need that particular item depending on the scenario. The logic breaks when you go into a different safe room and your items that you left in another box get magically transferred over, which despite doesn't make any sense, I can't complain since the mechanic can work to your advantages greatly when the difficulty rises throughout the game. These simple mechanics of item management will force you to follow the rules of survival horror. It is challenging, causing you to rethink your tactics depending on the situation that you are facing in the mansion. The score of the game. Nostalgia to one side, I won't beat around the bush that this game's aged pretty poorly. I would say to the casual player looking to get into the series, to start with Resident Evil 1, the remake, especially in the recently re-released version on the PS4 and Xbox One, sporting higher quality graphics, higher frame rate and non-tank controls. However, if you want to go back to the beginning to see where it all began, this is definitely a fun blast through even with the terrible voice acting.
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
And graphics that have a special charm with challenging yet addictive gameplay to keep you going. Despite this, again, it is still a great game and seeing where the story all began and what it later became. I will be giving this game a 7 out of 10, or in the reviews case, a grading of a C, so it looks like the hunt for a grade A is still on the way. Hope you all have a great night, and thanks for watching.